everyone. Welcome to another wonderful edition of Love Conversation with the Love Crusader. Yes. This is your Sunday spice. I tell you, your Sunday evening is not complete without joining our conversation. And this evening, in fact, for the entire month of June, we are touching on a topic that many people like to shy away from, especially in the Christendom. We are we like to be holy and spiritual about some of this kind of stuff. But that's the essence of our conversation. We want to be able to talk about those things that everyone will not talk about because this is an issue that affects everyone, that cuts across age, that cuts across gender, that cuts across religion, whether it be Christianity, Islam, any kind of faith. This is a very globally serious issue, and that is domestic abuse. We are talking about love and domestic abuse in the entire month of June, and God has lined up for us very wonderful people. We're gonna have pastors, survivors of domestic abuse. So you hear first class from those who've experienced it. We are also going to have legal people come here, tell us about legal frameworks and the legal implication of domestic abuse, and so on and so forth. So it's a very rich month of June. You don't want to miss any of this edition. Please talk to someone. Like I always say, the information you share here can save somebody's life. So please share and share and share. Somebody might just get one knowledge that can help them. All right, for this evening and kicking off the domestic abuse month, I have very good friends of mine. All right, let me start with the lady, Patience. Okay, introduce yourself. And like I always say, if you don't do justice to your own introduction, I'll help you because I always have my own spice. Go on, Patience.
Hello, thank you. It's so good to be here. I am Engineer Patience Oshari Ilalukwen. And I wear lots of crowns. But with regards to this topic, I survived an abusive, marriage, and I was able to come out, and it has been a healing and learning process. And I'm now in a comfortable place where I feel I can talk about it and share to save others from going through what I went through.
You see that? I told you firsthand, Patience is a survivor. Okay, we'll jump back into it. Patience, I have known Patience for close to 20 something years now. So I was at her wedding. We'll come back to that story. All right. Just because Baraka came before Titi, that's what I'm doing ladies first. Reverend Baraka Olubanwo is one of the very first friends I made in England. So many years back, we lost contact and then we have reconnected again. And what gives me great joy, before he introduces himself, is the fact that there were a lot of things we talked about when we met. Just one day meeting that left a very indelible mark in me. And those things are beginning to happen and come to pass now. And that gives me joy. Reverend Baraka, welcome. Introduce yourself.
Good evening. I'm used to asking people to introduce themselves or being introduced. So it's a bit alien having to introduce myself. But I'll take a cue from Patience. My name is Baraka Oluseun Olubanwo. Like she says, I wear quite a lot of hats as well. I'm an IT person, information technology. I work in the information technology space. I work as a project manager in my day job. And I'm also a reverend minister, like she did introduce. I'm an evangelist. I'm very much into missions work and leadership training. Unlike Patience, I have not been a victim of domestic abuse, but I have been accused falsely of domestic abuse. It's always two sides to a coin. I have also been in a relationship where I have been falsely accused of it, and it took the mercies of God, the grace of God, and the fact that I have children that can actually speak at that time and defend me and come to their father's defense that the case is not it. So I'm looking forward to this evening. It should be quite enlightening.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Are you hearing? You see, the people we have this evening are not coming here to just tell us theory or something they read from a book. So we are really going to have an exciting and a very, very educating time this evening. And my usual regular Mama Titi, True Love Expression, is also here. What can we do without her? She is our regular on this platform. No, just to introduce yourself, Sha, for the sake of formality.
People, there's nothing to introduce again. I'm still the same. I haven't changed. My name is still Titi Layo. I'm your relationship and marriage guide. I love to talk about anything related to relationship and marriage. I believe we are supposed to be enjoying our relationship and all our marriages. And if you are not enjoying your relationship or your marriage, it is an abnormality, and you need to do something about it.
You so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So let's jump right into it because our patients and Baraka are coming here for the first time. They are going to give us their definition of love quickly. Before we go, this is our ritual. So once you come here, you have to define love for us. Patients, let's go with you first. Your definition of love.
In my definition of love, love is caring, love is nurturing, kind, tending, and wanting to see the other person or where you're expressing the love to become a better version of themselves. That's my definition.
Okay, nurturing the other person to become a better version of themselves. All right, Baraka, what's love to you?
Well, well. What's my definition of love? It's in my view, it's an intense feeling of affection for someone, and that drives you to the point that you're willing to spend quality time with that person. You're interested in seeing that person grow and mature, and you're interested in the well-being and welfare of that person.
Mm, okay. Okay. So every time we define love here, it's always beautiful, it's always something nice. There are so many talks about caring, growing. So where do things like domestic abuse come in? This is um some people say love has to be painful, love has to be bitter, love has to be sour or bittersweet. I don't know how to, but let's just start with patience. What is domestic abuse? What has it got to do with love?
Thank you. Domestic abuse is when the other partner or whoever it is wants to enforce their way, uses manipulation, coercion, and whatever tactics to gain control over the other party. So it's to that person might be their own expression of love because they want to try and make the whatever is manipulation, anything that is done out of the ordinary, anytime you go out of your way to try to make somebody to do something out of their will, it amounts to abuse. Anytime you try to enforce, anytime you use threats or use coercion or use manipulation or you whatever, taking away someone else's power in order for you to have the power to intimidate or enforce or control the other party, that is abuse. Can be
Mm,
verbal, emotional, and it doesn't even have to be physical. We're talking about emotional abuse. So it's removing the physical parts. Whatever you do in talks, in coercion, in underground psychological manipulation to gain control over the other, that's abuse.
So the bottom line here is control. All right, Titi, what's your definition? Domestic abuse.
Um, I agree with what Patience says 100%. And like you just said, the bottom line is control. Con, con. No one has the right, or no one should be controlling another human being, because we are not wired to be controlled. Even God does not control us. We have that free will. So when another human being just like you begins to tamper with that free will that you have, God says, I've placed in front of you life and death. Choose. It's just a suggestion, it's an advice. I'm advising you to choose. So that's the way God relates with us. That's the way we should relate with other people too. So when you begin to start controlling, even when it is for good, even when your intentions are good. For example, maybe you want to force this person, you want to control this person to do the right thing. That is some form of abuse. Yes, you want them to do the right thing, but you cannot control their life. You can't change another human being. The best you can do, whether it's as a lover, as a wife, a husband, a mother, or a father, is to advise that person, is to mentor the person. If we have this understanding, then maybe abuse won't be on the rise as it is now.
Muted. What's your definition, Barakai?
Okay, I wrote some things down in my notes here, so permit me to quickly peep into my notes. You see, most times when we use the term domestic violence, it's because there's a close relationship between the offender and the victim. And most times we relate it only to people who have intimate relationships, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a husband, and a wife. But it goes beyond that. And hence why I have this written down here that domestic violence is violence committed by someone in a victim's domestic circle. So whoever is in that person's domestic circle and commits a violence against that person could be accused of domestic violence. This includes partners, ex-partners, immediate family members. Surprisingly, surprise, surprise, even immediate family members, parents, brothers, sisters. Hence, we hear about honor killing in the UK, where parents will arrange for the brothers to go and beat up the sister because the sister is in some other form of relationship with somebody outside of their faith. You see, it goes beyond just husband, wife, partner, between partners. It could also be anyone within a person's domestic setting. And I like what Patience said earlier on. There are so many ways that this manifests itself, but there is one which I want to talk upon tonight, which most of us are guilty of as African men. That is economic abuse. Most people don't talk about it in the form of domestic abuse. All we relate domestic abuse to is the physical one, the coercive one, the psychological one, but there's the economic abuse. And I,
Okay, we're coming. We're coming. We're coming. Don't let the cat out of the bag yet. We're coming to it. So I'm going to try to put together the definitions that we're all talking about here. So it is control, forcing someone to act in a way they would not usually want to act. And it's usually in a domestic setting. And I like the fact that Baraka has made it very broad. It's not just about a husband and wife, a boyfriend and girlfriend, relations who abuse children. We have neglect, parents who neglect their children. It's a form of abuse. When you bring children to the world and you don't do what you're supposed to do for them, care for them, provide for them in all ramifications, at least the three basic food, clothing, shelter, that is the three basic needs of man, then you have neglected those children and their needs. And we have settings where uncles sexually abuse young girls or little kids, in family. So it's really, really wide. It's really wide. And you must understand why we are giving a whole month to it on this platform, because we want to be able to deal with every single aspect of it. Today, majorly, I want us to talk about signs before I do. Now, sometimes some people say, oh, I didn't see it in him, or I didn't see it in her. All right. So these things we've listed, he's talked about the economic, physical abuse. The most subtle one, I think, is even emotional abuse, where the person is insulting you, issuing threats and stuff like that. And many people, especially African men in quotes, don't even see that as any big deal, to abuse a woman, to use words, or even some African women. I think I'm getting to a level where I'm really beginning to understand that this thing, despite that it affects women more, they're actually women who are abusers in relationship. Okay, let me not do all the talking. Let's start talking about the signs. Let's help somebody here. Maybe somebody is in a relationship now, somebody is living in a house, somebody is living in a family, growing in a family. How will they be able to recognize these signs? We're not talking about the husband and wife now yet. I'm growing up, I'm in a family. How do I know I'm being abused? Or how do I know I am abusing someone? Who wants to start? Who wants to start? Let's start with the ladies and then end with the gentleman. Patience, Titi, Barakai.
Okay, so signs of emotional abuse. I think that undermining your self-esteem, trying to making you feel less of yourself, making you to feel you cannot make decisions, making you lose your power, removing your ability to make decisions, undermining your ability to make decisions, um, making you to lose trust and confidence in yourself, and then they creating vacuums in your reality, and then they fill up such spaces so that they are just like entering into your life and filling up every space so that you are dependent on them, or you are believing that you cannot do so and so without their input, and they are there to just make the inputs and guide you and keep on pushing you and manipulating you into their own way. So at the end of the day, they have their way. So even when you bring an opinion, they will still twist it around. So it still sounds like yours, but it has changed, because they have put
Mm,
in their input and they have twisted you to see it their own way. So when you bring up your opinion, they turn it around until you start to see things from their own point of view. So you now start to like, okay, I'm going to need this person's opinion on this thing. Okay, why don't I just, so you yourself start like, I can't do this on my own. Let me, and then you start losing yourself, totally depending on them. The people that you associate with, you lose your circle. Your formerly, you'd have friends that you could talk things over with. But because this person has come into your life and they have filled all the vacuums and all the spaces, even created more spaces so that they can fill it, they try to now isolate you or pull you out of people that you would otherwise entrust, for advice and relationship, so that they're just totally in your circle, and then everything about you becomes them, everything about them becomes you. Then you lose yourself, you lose the need for others, and they just fill up all your space.
hmm. Okay. Titi.
Okay, so for abuse before you say I do, just like you are saying that most times are subtle, so the classic ones, he's beating you, is those ones are easy, or most times, even if you don't see it, some other person around you will see you, yeah. But basic, most nowadays is becoming more subtle because there's so much awareness now. Everybody is talking about domestic violence, domestic abuse, so these abusers are becoming more subtle, you know especially when it comes to emotional abuse, because it starts gradually and you think that they are being their normal selves, saying the normal things, but you realize that over time, whenever you're around this person does not joy. They don't add to your life, they're always bringing you down, making bad. Then you begin to ask yourself, you're always questioning yourself whenever you're around this person. Oh, you're always giving them benefit of the doubt while you are putting yourself down. Maybe I'm the one that didn't say the right thing. Maybe I didn't really understand them. That's why they reacted, this way. Those are the subtle signs that you begin to notice. But you might begin to say, okay, anybody can make any of these errors. Anybody can unconsciously down, so you want to look hands when it comes to. So it's not as if this person did this thing to said this thing to you, you feel bad and this person is an abuser. No. But over time you realize in your relationship with them happening over and over again, there's nothing you say that makes sense to them. Over time you realize that my opinion is always my whatever I say is always dumb, you know so those are the subtle. Then overall, because you will say nobody is above mistake, these things can happen, but overall, the abuser or the abuse is a mindset. So you need to start looking at this person's mindset. Yes, this is the way this person is, this is the way they grew up, this is what the best they know. But are they willing to be better? Are they willing to improve on that knowledge, that wrong foundation that they had or whatever, that wrong habits that they've picked up? Are they willing to be better? If that person you're with is not willing to be better, is not open to improving themselves, you are probably dealing with an abuser and you don't know it yet. So it may not even show. That's why most times people say, I didn't see it. Sometimes I'm tempted to agree that yes, it may be there latent, but they may not see, it may not show at the beginning, So maybe you date this person a year and you're married, so it may not show. But you look at the pattern, number one, then check out this person's mindset. Is this person open to growth? Is this person willing to improve? Is this person willing to be better? If they are willing to be better, the rest of it is a piece of cake.
Okay, I'm hearing you. Yeah, I don't know whether when you say it is Latin, but they don't see it. I don't know that it's a case of love being blind. Anyways, Baraka, tell us what you think.
In my view, it's not a matter of love blinding them. I think it's Jeremiah. Please pardon me. I would always every now and then refer to the Bible because that's all that I know. I think it's in Jeremiah chapter 17 that the prophet laments that the heart of man is so full of deceit and is desperately wicked. And he asks the question, who can comprehend it except
Bam.
look, if I am a narcissist, if I am, and they usually tend to be the ones that will become abusers, yeah, they are very good at hiding these things when they are trying to make their way into your life. So, no matter how observant you may think you are, no matter how much of training you've gone for, studying you've done in this space, they will outsmart you, except for those that are the ones that are easier is the physical abuse, wherein that person hits you physically. Even if you are saying you don't still see it because of love, people around you will notice it. But tell me, how can you possibly before marriage know that somebody is going to abuse you economically? It's difficult to know. How would you know? He's not obliged to spend money on you anyway. So maybe once in a while he takes you out and you upset him. And then he decides, I'm not going to get you that present anymore. In the first place, he's not married to you, so he's not under any obligation to spend money on you. So, how do you know that such a person will do the same in marriage? Now, there's this bit about cutting you from family and friends and intentionally isolating. Well, you do not live with him. So there's no way he can presently cut you away from your family. All he can do is make subtle suggestions. Have you not noticed that this your friend seems to be a bit envious of you? Maybe you need
Uh-huh.
to be of this friend.
Exactly. That's the language.
And most times the way they will come across is like they're giving you very sound counsel and because they care for you. And this is what I want to say. There is no way except that person goes all the way out and the spirit of God exposes that person, it is very difficult to detect. So this is why, above all things, we go to God in prayer. And he that can search the heart of man and that can see all that is hidden will reveal it to you. If it means that that person will manifest himself unconsciously so that you can see that side of that person and you're like, wow, so this is that Eden bit. But other than that, some people have, because they grew up, most of them grew up in homes where they've seen possibly their father or their mother abuse their father as well. Some of us have seen it happen live, and some of us have also experienced it. And you see, you will see your father cross his leg watching TV and just shaking with that newspaper, which is upside down, which tells you he's not actually reading it, he's trying to cover up with it. And your mother raining abuse on the man. The man leaves the living room, goes on the balcony. She follows him. You see things like that, but we ignore it. And, our culture tells us that how can a woman abuse a man? It's the other way around, it's the man abusing. So, in answering your question, and not to take too much of a time, I think it is the Spirit of God, only the Spirit of God, that can reveal these hidden things to us. Because truly, if we're able to see them, how many people will want to go into a marriage where they will be abused? I doubt very much.
Uh, that's your last question. It's a very, very, very how would I put it? It's 50-50. I have seen situations where people walk into abusive. I'll give you one very clear example. While we were in school, and this is many, many years back, when we're still in Mina, patients know when we're in Mina. um we had this girl who was dating this particular guy, and every time they go out she comes back with bruises. Hers was even physical abuse, and it was obvious physical abuse was there. He was always beating this girl. One of the days he came to the school, and right there on campus he beat this girl to a pulp. And that was even when I realized, oh, that was the day I met the girl. I took her to my room, and then we started talking to her. Then realized it's this guy who is seeing her through school. Her parents can't afford her education. He's the one paying for her education, blah, 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 blah. And so anybody who says hello to her, she's in trouble. No other person should even greet her because he's paying her school fees and he's the one training her. And she says she can't leave. She can't leave. There's no life. How will she go to school? How will she? That many times she's cried to her parents. They'll say, we can't help you now. This is your help part. This is the Morenike that God has put by you to help you. So, bear it. And this girl was still in this relationship after almost 3 years of beating.
Can
So,
quickly interject
it,
there. You've touched
yes.
something very important. The role and the place and the influence of one's domestic setting in things like this. You touched on the fact that even our own parents are saying to her, look, you will have to endure this. You cannot but endure this because there is no other way out. And
Mm,
also seen our mother or our aunts over the years or our senior sisters going through the same. And when she asked the question of them, but why are you tolerating this? They say, well, it is the way of life. This is the way things go in life. So tell me, how can you want to, in the span of a conversation of 1 hour, change the psyche, the mindset of somebody who over the last 21 years has been repeatedly told that this is the way of life. This is the way to
mm.
go. She's seen her mother go through it. She's seen her aunts go through it. She's seen her senior sisters go through it. And you now want to tell her that, look, there could be something better. So for such a person, she cannot see it. She's already damaged. So whatever you're saying, she does not have the mental capacity to comprehend what you're saying, and she will walk straight into it. Because as far as I watched the film recently, I think it's called Blood Sisters. And this lady was trying to say to her mom, Mom, I can't go ahead with this marriage. This guy, this and that. And the mom was saying, are you mad? Your father needs, you need to marry these people. We need the loan for them. Your father needs it for his business. Look at the quality of life we're living. Can you not endure this pain just for the sake of the family? So most times, how can you preach to such a person that, look, that's a disaster in the making, that, look, don't do it. Don't go into it, walk away from it. Very, very difficult.
Exactly, exactly. That is the reason why sometimes people like us who work with some of these people, we get frustrated if not for the power of God, because it's looking like you're trying to pull somebody out of a pit, but this person is refusing to come out. It's not like they don't want to come out, it's because, like, he has said they have been conditioned. So it takes a while to recondition this person's mind to get it that, look, this is not life. This is not, this is this. I mean, there's a better life. It can be. It doesn't have to be like this. And I think starting from or going back to what we were saying about the fact that this is not just about um uh um man and woman, the boyfriend girlfriend marriage relationship. Even in the home, let's come to how do we how do we how do we conceptualize? I don't want to speak big grammar. How do I even break it down? The issues of abuse that happens in a family. For example, I'll give you very, very short example. I was abused by an uncle. I was not raped, but I was abused by an uncle, and it was a bit sexual. But I was a baby, so to speak, 5, 6 years old, and I did not know the meaning of what he was doing. He puts me on his lap, and then tries to put his hands in my private. Many years down the line, I'm grown. Of course, now I understand that what this uncle was doing that time was not right. Okay. And then in the course of conversation with some other people, I discovered that this is something he's done around the family. Yeah, and this is many, many years later we didn't speak out. How do we help ourselves? Let's start from there. Within the family, because the children, many times they don't even know what is going on around them. And this kind of abuse that I've just described happen most with people who are related to us. We are Africans. We practice external, what the extended family thing. So you always have uncles, you always have aunties around. I know a guy who was disvirgined by their housemaid. And he was just a little boy. He was not even 10 when their house help started sleeping with him. And he didn't even know what it meant. He didn't know what this auntie was doing. So let's talk about that before we even begin to talk about the love relationship in itself. This subtle abuse that happens within the family. How do we help ourselves? How do we help our children? How do we help the vulnerable people around us? Let's start again. Patience, Titi, and Baraka.
Thank you. I think that we should be more open and telling children the reality and the possibility of these things happening. Now teaching children sexuality education about, private parts. Don't let people touch your hair and there. Telling them what is good touch and bad touch. So that and encouraging them to be open, because these people will tell them, don't tell your mommy and daddy, I'll buy you sweets. So if your child trusts you, they'll be able to tell you anything, no matter what. And then being watchful that when this particular person is around, how your child behaves. Like if a child is not, if it's bad touch, the child will not be too comfortable around that person. So you should be conscious of the subtle signs that, oh, my child is not comfortable around this person, or this person has an overlikeness of carrying my child around, or you come and sit on my lap, those kind of things, or let's go for a walk, and all those kind of hidden things. So let children be aware that these things can happen, and especially that it can happen with, really close family members, and then you trust them. And there have been cases where a child opens up to their mother or father and say, this person did this, and then they say, no, keep quiet. It can't be. It's not possible. Don't lie against your uncle or auntie or cousin. So you should trust your child. Your child should be able to trust that if they come to you, you will not chastise them, or you will not accuse them, and so that they will not lock up. Because usually children will lock up if the first time they tell you this, you come and you're like, no, it's not possible. You're probably exaggerating it. So when they're aware of these things, and then you encourage them to talk, and they can open up to you. And then we should not overly trust people, because you see nobody is not written on anybody's face that this person can be an abuser. So you're like, it's not as if it's grandpa or something like that, but this person's an uncle. My brothers, my uncles, my mother, the wives, this one. So no matter how close the person is to the family, don't underestimate, anybody who can do such a thing. Let your child be open to you and talk to you.
Yeah, before Titi comes up, let me tell you another funny story. It wasn't funny because I was really livid that I was going to visit a friend. I was not a friend, a cousin of mine. I was still in Nigeria then, and if you know Abuja, around the Kubwa area. And just as I was coming in, as I was driving into the street, I saw the daughter of my cousin on a bike, on a motorbike, Okada, alone. And this girl was just about 3 years. In fact, the mom had just had a new baby, and that was why I was going to the house. She was alone on Okada with this man. So I stopped the man. Hey, where are you taking this girl to? He said, no, that my neighbor picking, we just want to, the girl, if they cry, they carry and waka. We just want waka around with her because she they cry. So I said, okay, give me the child. I said, no, no, me. I said, me, I don't know you. Give me this child. She's my child, I was when I got inside, it took all the effort in me not to slap my cousin, because I was like, who still does that in this generation? How can you give your child to a bike man? You say she likes riding bike ride. You are not there. No adult is there. No supervision, nothing. A 3-year-old girl. And the bike man is driving her around. Okay, Titi, go on. I'm just trying to tell you, give an example of situations where these things can happen.
I think that we can't overemphasize the place of knowledge here is key, both for the child and for the parent. Most times we feel that these things just happen, you know, like most people, just like the way most people handle marriage. That's the way most people handle parenting. You feel like you just learn on the love, that learning just comes on you, as you go, you learn as you go. And it does not work just like that. There's no institution, there's no organized setting that runs on auto. That's where parenting is. To consciously make that effort to prove your knowledge on parenting. We don't know, nobody knows at all, you know and you can always be better. You can always be a better parent. So the onus now lies on the parent to keep on updating themselves on better ways, on how to handle these kids. Because while we were kids, or while I was a kid, the way my parents handled me, I can't handle my kids like that now. In short, I will just lose them. So we need to equip ourselves with knowledge as regards parenting, better ways of parent, how better ways to transmit this knowledge to these kids so that we do not lose them. Then create a safe space for them to always come to you. you know Knowledge is only both for the parent and for the child. You have to keep telling this. Children are very impressionable, you know just like adults too. One thing keeps drawing them. You can't hide your child in a cocoon and say you're not going anywhere. Even if you do that, they are going to be exposed in one way or the other. So the earlier you begin to equip them with sound knowledge, the better. Sound, practicable knowledge. Those days they just tell us, don't do this thing. If you do it, you will die. Or if you do this, if you touch him, you can't afford to do that now. The children will say, eh. So it's like that. Okay, let me touch it first and see whether I will die. So you have to take your time, explain to them. For me, sometimes I just tell my kids, so randomly, I just tell them, what if you find yourself in so and so situation? Or I use examples, make them learn something from the stories they tell you in school. This day, this one happened this way. I said, and you were looking at them. You mean, if someone says put your hand inside fire, you can do the same thing? You have to learn to stand up for yourself. So subtle things like that are the ways in which we can try and reduce this abuse of a thing. And every human being is a potential abuser. We have to watch it. That's why abuse thrives in marriage relationships. You have to watch it. You have Before you know it, you are enjoying that control. Because you will like it when you tell the person sit down and he sits down. When you tell the person jump up, the person says how high. You're like, wow. So this thing can happen like this. You are getting your way. Before you know it, you're an abuser. So you have to watch it. You just have to watch it.
Oh my goodness, Titi. You are just hitting some nails now that really, really. First of all, I like the fact that you said no institution runs on auto. And this is where we have issues with most people. Truthfully, let's just say it as it is. The knowledge is there. We are in the knowledge era. It's everywhere. Internet, it's on your phone. What are you watching? Instead of sitting down watching those Facebook video and TikTok video that will not add anything to you, use your data to learn something. You understand what I mean? It's different from when our mothers and our mothers were training children. We have these apps, gadgets, learning platforms, but people don't take advantage of them, you see. It's like when we were talking about maturity and age in love and relationship, and people getting married young and the need to grow in the relationship. What grows you is knowledge. You cannot grow beyond what you know. You see, so if you don't acquire the knowledge, the required knowledge, how will you grow? So even in the parenting, if we don't acquire it's like my cousin, auntie, not mean anything now. Auntie, I said, Holy Spirit, I was going to slap her. Like, what are you not talking about? Are you not listening to news? Are you not hearing things that are happening in this age? I don't even care whether let him even be your brother. I would not leave that small girl for one person to be carrying around. For what? You know what I'm trying to say? But maybe she actually acted in the level of the knowledge that she knows, like you're saying now. And they're talking about the fact that anyone can be an abuser. The worst that I have come to discover is if you live too long with an abuser, you can become one. All right, Baraka.
Yeah.
Let me know. Let me not take the space.
I do like what TT says, that everyone is a potential abuser, and chances are there. I love this country for one reason: control measures are put in place. You don't pay your council tax, you are in trouble. You overspeed, your ticket might get home. You might get home and your ticket is already.
He's waiting.
So these things, one way or the other, would put you in a position where you find it almost difficult to want to commit those crimes. And you know almost immediately that you will need to invest a lot of effort into committing the crime. It's easier not to commit the crime than to commit it in this world. And she said something about training. And I think this is where communities and the church has dropped the ball. I remember almost
Mm.
2 decades ago when I was going to have my first child. And my mother, blessed memory, was at home with us here in Dublin. And they said we had to attend 3 classes where they would teach you about what to expect during childbirth. And myself and my mother thought to ourselves, this is nonsense now. Why do I need to go and learn? And you know the beautiful thing, I sat through the 3 sessions. I just sat there because I had to, not because I was interested. But there's a way the human brain retains information. So nearer to the time as she started to manifest, let me put it that way, I remember the things that I learned in those lessons, and I could quickly reconcile or relate them to what was happening on the ground. If we do not train people, and this is where the church has failed and the community has failed. How many trainings do we have in church these days on parenting? How many weeks you have dedicated the whole month of June now on this platform to talking about love, domestic abuse? We have missed the mark in the church. How many churches now dedicate a whole month to parenting? The Bible, I believe, somewhere in Titus or somewhere says that the older women in the church
To
should
teach
endeavor to teach the younger ones.
younger women. Yeah.
Now you are talking from a place of experience, what you've gone through, and I've learned one or two things now from this conversation we're having. Even though I'm contributing, I'm also learning. But where's the place of training? We need to train the older women. Also, we need to create a safe haven for these children. I remember when growing up, and not because my parents were particularly difficult, especially my mom. That was how they knew to train us. But thankfully, she had a best friend then who we could approach. Mom Eregun, we used to call her. You could go to Mom Eregun and discuss everything you couldn't discuss with my mother, I could discuss with her. And she has a way of coming back to my mom to discuss the same. And unfortunately for me, I learned this thing about economic abuse from my parents. Whenever I misbehaved and it was time to go to school or I didn't do something they wanted, they withdrew money from me. They withdrew all those benefits from me. And those things will set me straight almost immediately. Almost immediately. And I thought growing up, and I took that into marriage. I'm not ashamed to admit it. That okay, when my wife starts to do something I'm not altogether happy about, because I make quite a lot more than she does, I withhold the money, not knowing that it was a form of abuse. It took
Mm.
somebody with knowledge and patience sitting me down to say, look, when you do that, that's abuse.
Mm.
Because you have the money, the resources, you withdraw it because this person is not doing what you expect this person to do. So you are going to withdraw. It's a form of abuse as well. So yeah, I agree with everything we have said. Training is very important. Church should make out time for it. We should make out time for it in communities, even in our families. Let's not only have WhatsApp group so that we can plan funerals, plan weddings, plan things like that. Let our WhatsApp group in family, let us share content. I am going to share tonight with a few of my friends. I'm going to go on Facebook and share it to a few of my friends. If I share it to 10, maybe at least two, if just two of them will benefit. And that's two lives that we have saved. And those
Yeah.
two will multiply the same and we will have that ripple effect. I will stop for now because I could go on and on about this.
Someone just said it's a pity we have so many emergency parents today who know nothing, little or nothing about parenting before they go into it. Parenting should be planned, I believe. But uh okay. I think we've touched something here. And this is something that really, really would I say trouble me as a person, because I'm a church child. I grew up in the church. And all we knew, or what we thought the church should be, was you come, you pray, you fast, don't go to hell. Remember burning bush? eh?
Sorry,
Eh,
sorry, I'm laughing.
no, but it's the truth. It's the truth, and it takes a lot when you tell them. I remember that one time we had this big dialogue about women fellowship in my church, and we were trying to break the stereotype. So I was of the opinion that when we come to women fellowship, we should not just come, and we were coming to fellowship to pray and fast. We come on Sunday, we pray, we fast. Then I asked them, what is the essence of the fellowship? If I'm going to pray and fast on Sunday, there's no need for women fellowship again. Women fellowship should not be a place where we talk about things that are specific to us as women, as mothers, how we can grow, how we can learn, how we can be better wives, how we can be, you know what I mean? And some very, very spiritual people feel that all these kind of programs are not spiritual. But the truth of the matter is these things affect your spirituality. Because a woman who, for example, the husband is slapping inside the house, whether she comes out, she's smiling or not, cannot tell me she's praying and reaching God. Which God? Which God? I've been there.
She might be
I'll kneel
on
down.
raining curses. She might be reading, praying with some psalms that are raining curses on her husband. Praying
Is
as
God
well.
even interested in that kind of prayer?
She could be praying.
I just kneel down. All I'll do is cry. I want Patience to talk to us about this, because Patience is a survivor. She's experienced it. And I'm not going to tell my own story, because it's not. I don't want it to be about me. But yes, I have been through it myself. And I know it's not funny. It's not something that you kneel down and you start praying to God about, oh God, bless my husband after he has just slapped you. Which bless? Oh God, make me a better wife. No, the only thing you can be doing is, God, kill this man now. You're not the one that took the husband of Abigail when he was a okay. Patience. Patience, talk to us about it. The feeling, the training, the need for, and you married in church. Both of you are
Yes,
Christians. So talk to me. Talk to me.
yes. So what you said about mindset and mental conditioning. So if somebody has this mentality that this is the way things should be done because they saw it being done that way and it probably worked for that generation. It doesn't now work it may not necessarily work in this generation. And then the way you try to enforce it, like I went into marriage believing that both parties should come together, make decisions, put everything on the table, and then together you work from there. But when you now realize that no, the other person will see your opinion, press over it, and go with only his own way. So you one sense you lose your self esteem, you lose your opinion, you generally lose yourself because the other person is just putting everything over, manipulating you, having his way over everything. His way is the only way, and that is not life because it's the two of you coming together. So no matter how much you cleave and try to mend and put things together, you are they're gradually edging you out of this. So you're only just there as a figurehead. You're only just there as a okay, just be there because you have to be there. Every other thing has to be my way. It has to be my way. My way is the only way, and it's either that way or you have to learn to do things my own way. Your own way, as nothing you ever do is good enough. You stand then you keep on trying. Maybe if I try this better, it will be better. If I do less of this, if I reduce myself more, I can let the other person feel he's winning, or let him just be winning.
This network should not try me.
And let me just be there. You shall pray, because prayer is the
We
only thing
shall
that we
pray.
have. So pray, and then we shall pray now. So we prayed, we prayed, we fasted and prayed that God, if it's me that has to change, let me change. If the other person has to change, let the person change. And then when you have issues with discourse, okay, how about you do more of this? How about you do less of this? And then no, they don't want it any other way. It has to be their way or no other way. And it just gets to a breaking point one day, and then there's it just doesn't work again. You now realize. I know sometimes when you are in it, you don't realize because you're like, maybe just like you said about when you grew up at home and then you saw it somehow, it may not have been that way, but at home they tell you at church and everything, they'll tell you, be submissive, you are the wife,
Ehen, ehen.
you are supposed
That
to
word,
just
that word is what that word is what we need to break in the few 10 minutes that I have before we go,
so be
because
submissive,
we want
be
to talk about the church and the sermon on submission and how this is fueling abuse in some relationships. Yes, go on, go on.
yes, yes. So everybody tells you, pray, the woman built her home, keep on do less of this, and then you probably see less of that, or do more of this, and then you'll see more of this or more of
Don't
that,
talk, keep
and then
quiet when he's talking. Don't
keep
talk,
quiet.
don't
Yes, if
shout.
he doesn't want you to talk, don't talk.
Stop
If he doesn't want
laughing.
you to air your opinion, don't air your opinion. So how do you not air your opinion? I mean, you're a complete human being, head to toe. God didn't waste, grace on you like that for you to just become completely insignificant, and then not, in a marriage that there's two of you, you just totally disappear, and you're still there. So it breaks. It will break you, generally to break you because you're not meant to function less of yourself. And every day you are growing, you're supposed to be growing by what you hear, by knowledge you acquire. And then when you are in it, you don't even know it's that bad because you are, and then like when you not as if you are intentionally or so isolated, but like who do you share with? People don't want to hear these kind of things outside. Everybody just believes, keep your secret, don't let everybody hear.
Mm-hmm. Keep your
Your own is not as
marriage.
bad. Your own is not as
Uh,
bad. It can't be as
and you
bad
won't
as
carry
the
your
other
own
person's own.
marriage.
They're not beating you, so stay ahead. At least it has not reached that stage. So just do less of this. Don't talk. Don't answer him back. If he wants you to this one, just do like that. Let everything shall just work. The whole thing, as I say, marriage is in the woman's hand. It makes or making or breaking is in the woman's hands. Whatever you do, it will always be your fault. And
I
then the
don't.
other person be
So, so, so,
outside.
so, patience, wait, because our time is running really fast, and there are a whole lot of things coming up here that um I can relate to it. Let me just put it that way. And I know a lot of people can relate with it, especially talking about when we talk about one submission, how people have misconstrued the concept. And I'm going to allow Baraka talk to us about this because he's a man and a reverend. So he should be able to give us what the biblical background to what the submission is and why it has become a tool of abuse in relation, a tool of manipulation in relationship. And then the other issue is this issue of who do you tell. I struggled with it. Who do I go and start telling now? Or more reverend, bishop's daughter. How can I go and tell someone that this kind of things happening to me? And okay, I'm even teaching people. I'm teaching others. Anyone in my saw what kind of shame is that one? What the kind of things that people. So who do you tell? Two questions, Baraka. Help us. Our time is running fast.
I'll
Time
try
is
to
not always
address
my friend.
questions in just 2 minutes. I
Mm.
think there is a misconception when we try to relate to what Paul wrote to the church in Ephesus. I think Ephesians 5, and let me open it here so that I don't just paraphrase. Please give me a second. Ephesians 5, and it is 21 to 23. We make a mistake. The first line, 21, says, submitting to one another in the fear of God. It's not a one-way street. The Bible is clear. One to the other, submitting one to another.
But
Even in
our men folk only quote the next one. Where say, wife, submit to your husband.
our parents, when they say to us, children, obey your parents, this and that. I remember the day I now told my mother, can I go on to the next verse? We says, parents do not, and that was the last time my mom made me read that. It says here in 21, submit one another, even in the fear of God. 22, we're all familiar with that. A wife submits to your husbands, this and that. But let's go to 25. He says, husbands, love your wives, just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for her. Christ took upon himself the sins of the church. He who knew no sin became sin that we might be clean by his deed. So he's saying to us, as the husband, you've got to learn to take upon yourself every mistake, every fault, every wrong of your wife, just like Christ did the same for the church. I didn't know this until, you see, there's a place for elders in the body of Christ spending time teaching us the word of God. I honestly did not know this. I came to the realization of this some 3 years ago because all we read is the generic one in church, but no in-depth knowledge of the word of God. And he said to me here, okay, so what did Christ do for the church? And I started to speak, trying to show myself. And he said, so why can't you do the same for your wife? And there
End
my
of
heart,
conversation.
that there is a lot more upon me than upon my wife. If I'm to get my wife to submit, I must be able to do what Christ has done. Christ paid the price. That is why you and I today will say we are submitting to his lordship. I did not pay the price. What will we be submitting to? And let's quickly to
Mm.
verse 28. He also says, husbands ought to love their own wives, even as their own body. He who loves his wife loves himself. And verse 29 says, for no one has ever hated his own flesh. Is it possible for me to hit my own head against the wall? Is it possible for me to burn myself with a hot iron? He says you should love your wives as your own being. If you love her, you love yourself. For no one hates his flesh, but nourishes and cherishes it, just as the Lord does the church. So truly, if we come to that point as men where we start, and I'm guilty of it. I don't know who's listening to this. My ex-wife might be listening to it, but I've come to a position in life where I am honorable enough now to admit that at some point or the other, I must have dropped the ball due to lack of knowledge or whatever. And it's part of growth in Christ, where you're able to openly admit that, look, what I'm saying to you, I'm not just teaching theory. I am telling you based on experience. Had I known this, maybe I wouldn't have suffered this loss. If truly my wife is part of me, and I cannot imagine myself hitting my own head against hitting my own head against the wall or burning myself, why should I then do the same to my wife? Why should I deny myself? Can I just wake up in the morning and begin to rain curses upon myself? It's impossible unless there's something fundamentally wrong. God forbid. Why then, as a man, should I do the same to the wife? So, in terms of submission, it's very clear. Verse 21, we are to submit one to the other. And the man has more response. Our culture has gotten it wrong, where they say it is upon the woman that the success of the. No, the Bible says it is the man. It is clear here. Just like they used to say that the sex of the child is the woman's fault, that she keeps giving birth to women. It's only after I came to the Western world and I learned that the man determines the sex of the child, not the woman. So many things we've twisted around. We've gotten twisted. And I think the next question is something around, what was the other one?
Who do you tell? Who do you tell? The
You
issue of,
tell.
oh,
Now,
don't take your marriage matter outside, and
this is
you
where we
know.
are lacking. This is where we're lacking. We have so many of us who are men of God today who ought to still be students of the word, who have now become,
Hmm.
and no disrespect to anyone, who have now become bishops and archbishops.
Title holders.
Yeah. And you would expect that they know, but they do not know. So what do you expect to go and meet such a man? And what do you expect that he will teach you? I say this, I have found the greatest peace going to shrinks. Condemn me if you will. I have gone for therapy, counseling with pastors. They added more to my wahala and even did not resolve the issue in the marriage. You will finish counseling of 3 hours. You're in the car on your way home and you're almost literally beating one another up. And you would even see me and that the pastor, whilst they're counseling you, almost literally challenging one another as well. And you're thinking, why is she better than I really care? We're still able to communicate. It's all funny, but it's true. But I found that going to therapists outside, people, secular therapists, people who perhaps we will say do not even know God, but God is using them. They call them shrinks. These people will be able to sit with you and objectively talk you through life. Unfortunately, the church has failed. I personally will not recommend anybody going to talk to one mommy pastor than the pastor. There are marriage counselors out there who are trained, who are learned, who have the skills and the training on if somebody can talk a person out of committing suicide, that person has skills. Such a person should be listened to, can talk you out of going into a divorce or destroying your own life. That is you shoot me if you like, but I've given up all this mommy pastor, daddy pastor counseling thing. Go and check their lives. Go and check their lives. Because should they really be counseling us?
Ah, Jesus. Baraka has dropped the bomb. Oh. This table is now shaking. This table is shaking. In fact, the platform is shaking. Titi, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Are you hearing what I'm hearing?
But you not see online these days that when they now have issues in their marriage, this so-called mommy pastor, and you now start to see everything being thrown out, and you think, wow, we thought they were the perfect couple all along. But alas,
Sorry, I have some now deep thoughts, and this is my issue. 1 hour is never enough on this platform for me. Once we get into the topic, we start having branches and dragging legs out. God will help us. Holy Spirit help us this month to deal with this as much as we can. And I like the fact that we're not pretending about these things. Some people will not like me or may not like Baraka or may not like us after this because they can't handle the truth. There's a whole lot of pretense, like he just said, in the Christendom. And that's the truth. A lot of daddies and mommies in the Lord, bishops, apostles, what are the titles again? Archdeacons and archbishops. The marriages are not working. But many people are coming out and laughing and faking it. And then we now take our problem to these same people who are even looking for solution to their own as well. Okay, so just to give me your final thoughts because there's nothing else.
I think that nobody knows everything, because so-called shrinks that you would go to meet to you go and meet, they are going on stuff they are too, difference in this secular things or whatever and these men of God is that one party is open to learning, one party is willing to improve on better ways, the other party is set in their ways, and they now begin to talk to you based on their own personality, based on their own personality. So that's the issue. The other person is more objective because their mindset is open to ways. So that's just, we are all going through stuff. Seeing people, there aren't people that don't enjoy. There are people that enjoy their marriage, but I'm just saying that if even with those people that are in marriages, you need to walk through too. So at the end of the day, bottom line is change your mindset. We need to relearn. We need to unlearn. You have an open mind. Feeling like I said earlier, everybody is a potential abuser. There has to be checks, and that check is your willingness that your spouse or your partner or the other person can come to you and say, "This is what you are doing to me. This is what you are doing. This is how it's hurting me. This is what it's doing to me." And you're like, "Oh, I didn't see it that way." Mindset is just the bottom line of everything. Have a better mindset. Open your mind. Be willing. That's it.
Okay, thank you so much, gentlemen and ladies. It's been so engaging, and like Titi has said, I think the bottom line is to have a change mindset, is to also acquire knowledge. Knowledge is power, and I keep repeating it on this platform. What you don't know is more than you. You can only act within the capacity of what you know. A mind that is not open to learning new things and to changing. Some people give the excuse, "Oh, this is how I was brought up. This is how my father, treated my mom. This is how my mom," like Baraka has told us now. But thank God that he can come and say, "Oh, from the word of God, I can see that this was my error." You see what we're talking about? But when you have people who don't want to see this error, then there's no change, and the abuse continues. And then they pass it on even to children, onto children, and to children. It becomes like a generational thing. You see a father who has been abusing the mother, and their children, continue it and stuff like that. However, every one of us come from a particular kind of background. What you do with it is what matters. What you do with that knowledge you've come with. If it's not good, unlearn it. If it's good, relearn it. We keep growing. But And I keep using the word growing because they say the marriage or the relationship thing is a university you don't graduate from. What do you do in a university? You learn. You learn. When your spouse is talking to you and say, "Oh, this is how this thing makes me feel," don't ignore it. Ignoring the person's feeling is also another form of abuse. You should not ignore somebody's feeling if they are saying, "Oh, this is how," you might not see it as a problem, but if this person is saying, "This is how this thing makes me feel," and you truly say you love this person, then it should matter to you. We've talked here now about protecting our children. Please, parents, let's get knowledge. The way your father brought you up might not work with your own son right now. I remember how my father used to, hey, flog the boys. We girls, God save us. Oh. You know, my dad's an ex-military man. If he's watching, okay, yes, daddy, I'm exposing you. The man shows shege. My dad is flogging, hey, if he's this age, they would have arrested my father. I'm telling you the truth. Pure abuse. But he was just, imagine, he had a garage. He had his quiver full. 6 boys and 3 girls, 9 children. We were like a barrack, you know. And this was the only way the man knew that he could keep discipline, and orderliness in the house. But you can't try that with your children now. The children we have these days, they can't bear it, they can't take it. You start hearing of mental illness and emotional, they will run away from the house, they'll be on the streets, they'll be doing drugs. If they are handled as much as the way, our parents did then. Anybody who sits now and say, we have lost it because we are not doing it in the old way. Sweetheart, it's not a progression. Progressiveness is that we are learning new things. We are becoming more aware of our situation, and we're doing better for ourselves and for our future. Thank you so much for coming. Patience, thank you for telling us your story. And I'm always
Thank
happy
you.
for you. Secretly, I thank God for your life because you did not end up like Osinachi them. I think that is a worldwide example that we can use, And she made a very, very serious statement here. Somebody telling her, "Oh, at least they are not beating you. There are things that are worse than beating." John Tori Allah. Don't ever tell anybody that again. People say it a lot. It's not beating you now. It's not only beating, no. It's not only beating. I've had the opportunity to interact with some people in mental homes since I came to the UK. And oh my goodness, you need to hear some stories. There are people who are in mental hospitals just because of what they've gone through in a relationship. So it's not just about beating. Please don't wait. Find solution. It doesn't mean that you are unholy if you go talk to a therapist. This is a problem. African men, it doesn't make you less of a man if you talk to a therapist. Please. If you need to do that to save your relationship, do it. If it will help you, please do it. Do whatever it will take. If you truly love this person, do whatever it will take to keep the relationship. Okay. My time is up. Thank you so much. Thank you again and again. TT, Patience, Barakai. I can't thank you enough. I know you're all very, very busy people. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. I pray God refill you in Jesus' name. Thank you, viewers, those of you who have subscribed and those who have watched us. Of course, it's still going to be there. The link will be there. We will share with you, our friends. You can watch even after you've missed the live edition. If you did miss the live edition, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's Men Fences TV on YouTube. It's at Men Fences on Facebook. And it is Oko Joseph on LinkedIn. Oko Joseph Comfort on LinkedIn. You can click, you can like, you can subscribe so you don't miss any edition of this wonderful conversation. We'll come to you again next week, and we're continuing on love and domestic abuse. We'll talk about some other areas of domestic abuse, and like we say, knowledge is power, so don't miss any edition. Thank you so much. Have a love-filled week, everyone. God bless you.